Greetings everybody, this is Serpentine451 and welcome to another episode of Weeb Warriors. Now, Jordan and Jay had other obligations or were behind in the episodes for the reviews this week, so I will be going solo yet again. So, let's actually start with the shows that are not on Crunchyroll. And let's actually start with Dumbbell. Now, episode 10, Do You Like Christmas? Essentially boils down to the girls head over to the gym and they go to a Christmas party, seeing all the couples around there for Christmas and whatnot. So, with that, they go to the Christmas party in order to gain the affection of some good-looking college dudes and whatnot, since they all have the mind of actually getting some tail. With Satomi actually winning the lottery, which involved Machio flexing like a fucking madman, revealing all the different numbers in this lottery. On top of that, all those hot, good-looking dudes are some muscle-bound dudes, which really put a hamper on the girls' idea of attracting some hot dudes. And also included in the training montages are the easy bars. So they're doing glyphs that are comparable to actual dumbbell lifting, but it's more of an incline, which helps up build muscles because apparently Hibiki got a little bit too chunky, so she can't attract dudes. But enough about that. Satomi won a trip to a theme park that's modeled after Disneyland. I swear, these jokes just keep coming. They keep coming. So, she actually gives Akemi the tickets under the impression that she is going on a date with somebody. And that somebody being Machio. But Akemi's goal is to just get Machio into cosplay where he's shirtless so she can look at his pectorals. And we also get to know like the fine art of posing and flexing. How those poses that bodybuilders do actually strengthen their muscles, apparently. And that's pretty much it for Dumbbell. Now, there will not be a review for Vinland Saga this week because my dumbass decided to just review episode 9 already. But hey, c'est la vie. So there will not be a review for that. But the next shows that we can review, well, it'll be the Crunchyroll shows. Let's start with Dr. Stone. With Dr. Stone, essentially, what happens in it is that Gen gets his ass kicked by one of the villagers and was badly injured. And in typical Senku fashion, he figures out a way to use it to his advantage. Because after the event of the previous episode, where Gen witnesses electricity during the Stone Age, he will help Senku out by telling Tsukasa that he is dead. Well, Senku, is dead. And also we learn that to become the village chieftain, you have to win a contest, battle royale contest, which broke the camel's back when Kohaku entered in order to protect her sister from Magma, who is our antagonistic figure in the village. And he doesn't even care if Ruri is actually alive when he marries her, because that's the point of this battle royale, in order to marry her, Ruri and become chieftain. And that's essentially the episode. Sure, there's like having Ginro and Kinro training in order to join this battle tournament. But all that boils down to all the characters are just formulating a plan to further their entry into the village. Next up, we will be talking about Fire Force. And this is the fight between Rika and Shinra, where it was a beautifully animated fight. And we got to explore how much Tamaki really looked up to her lieutenants, most specifically Rika. And Rika just becoming an absolute terrifying monster who follows the will of the evangelists, whose goons, when Shinra defeated Rika with the help of Krem, the evangelist's goons kills Rika in order to protect, in order to stop any information from leaking out. That's essentially the episode. All in all, very great. I enjoyed the fight scene in this episode. Really, I do. And the whole ideal that Rika had is just messed up. And plus, Tamaki is joining our crew because the first district is being investigated for their involvement in the artificial infernals. And that's pretty much it. Next up, if it's for my daughter, I'd even defeat a demon lord. This episode, Latina and Dale had their fun in Tilthrow, and they returned home to Kurtz, where they actually reconnect with Dale's cousin Joseph and enjoy a small scene there. And Dale's family really loved Latina and would like for her to return. The grandma actually trying to give her a surname, which, if you guys know, that in the village, your surname is indicative of what your job is there. So when Latina comes back to the village, she will know what her surname is. But anywho, when they return, they actually meet a few of the other characters that, well, like I mentioned before, like Joseph and his family. And they return to the one city where they buy souvenirs, which they bought a souvenir for Rita. And with Rita, when they return, it just became such a great scene to have the patrons happy to have Latina come back. Just all smiles all around. Another great wholesome episode in this show. Next up, we will get Danmachi Season 2, which is, this is focusing on how Belle and Mikoto actually put a stop to the ritual, and how Belle is immune to the charms of Ishtar when she completely disrobes. So, continuing on the mission to save Haruhime, Belle is trying to find the inner strength because he wasn't sure what exactly prompted him to actually be a hero. And he ends up settling on, he wants to save Haruhime just to prove to her that the heroes in their stories aren't like what she perceives them as. How prostitutes can lead to a hero's destruction, which is not true. And Mikoto, being an absolute badass, one of my favorite characters in this series. She's just so earnest, so determined to actually save her friend. She would do anything to do that trick. Even sacrificing all of her own magical, even to the point where she blows herself up with her own magical energy to defeat a ton of Ishtar's children. That was just very, very emotional, very powerful. And Belle destroys the Killing Stone in order to save Haruhime, and that's where the episode ends. And I'm looking forward to seeing how things will end. I'm just seriously looking forward to it. It's going to be awesome, guys. Next up, let's go to Are You Lost? With this episode, it is following up on the previous episode where Shion gets lost at sea and ends up on a giant rock. And Homura tells the other girls that Shion is missing and that she's going to do her best to save her, which she ultimately does. And it was wonderful how Shion tried to apply all the survival training that Homura has taught them to see how she could survive on this rock. Which, she was scared, she tried her best to conserve water, and it was great. And Homura learned that back to what her father said, because she remembered that in order to survive, you have to think outside the box. You can't be linear in your thinking. That's essentially what he said. And she jumps off her raft that Motsu and Genki Girl, because her name will always escape me, helped her build. She jumps up and sees the rock that Shion's on, thinking astutely that Shion must have ended up there. And she was able to save Shion, and everyone is happily united. So the next episode is going to be still continuing on this trend of great wholesomeness. I really enjoy this show. Next up, let's go with Magical Senpai, which those episodes primarily focus on, the vignettes have Senpai trying to do a ball trick, which she ultimately fails, and she's adorable at her failure. Next up, we have Saki-chan trying to, being Saki-chan, she ultimately just fawns over her little brother too much. He got pissed and pretty much banned her from talking to him. So in order to make herself happy, she uses a ventriloquist dummy to entertain herself with Assistant, and she tries to fool around with Assistant, messing with his head. And she gives him a ventriloquist doll of Senpai, which he ultimately looks at the undergarments for the puppet, and just boom, white panties. That's about it. And the last vignette is about Makun, Saki-chan, and Assistant tailing Senpai because they've seen her with a guy, thinking that it's her boyfriend, which in reality is her sister's husband. Because the idiot, I don't want to say idiot, the guy can't really think of a good gift to get his wife for her birthday, so he enlists help with her sister to give him a hand. Which I think was a bit of a success, but Senpai is an earnest idiot, and Assistant's really, really, really fucked up, trying to basically turn down the any possibility that Makun and his thirsty ass trying to be a mentalist, which he is not. He's a bit of a dum-dum when it comes to that. But still, show's very funny, very great, very entertaining. Now, let's move on to the next show, which would be, if you guys can give me one quick second here. I already talked about... Come on, there we go. And... okay. So, now we just have 2 shows left. We have Isekai Cheat Magician, which is the battle to protect the capital from the Duke's army. Rin is apprehensive actually killing people, and Taichi is doing his best to not have another tragedy in this world yet again. So the mages that come to fight in this battle pull out all the stops that they can, even using magic items in the form of rings to drain their own life force in order to attack the capital. But through some ingenuity and true power, Rin and Taichi were able to pull through and win the battle. Even at the strategy meeting, our general of the army still hits on Taichi and wants to marry him, which is very, very funny. And that's pretty much it. And then that leaves with our last show, Isekai Mom, which I will call because I am not going to say the name of the actual show because it's too damn long. Basically, this episode, our gang forms a guild to climb up a tower in order to defeat monsters and gain what you wish for. If that wasn't a dumb Manchi reference, I don't know what will. And they run into a rogue character who started in leading an rebel group called Rebel. Yeah, very funny. In order to, like, climb up the tower and do things. And the leader of this band of thieves is a girl who falls on her ass and hurts her ass. And she's a very pathetic creature. Very, very pathetic creature, but still very, very funny. That is pretty much it. And also, Mamako is still Mamako, and the girls just really show off their personalities. Now, for the soapbox discussion this week, we're closing in on the tail end of this season, and everything's going well, I would say. And with this, I actually want to talk about something that's very entertaining. Now, for the past few weeks, past few weeks of me recording stuff and uploading, I apologize for that again, but when you try to make videos with new software, it just takes a lot of time. Even with the minimal effort I put into making some of the videos, I apologize. I can only get better from here and refine my skills as an editor once more. Anyway, the one thing I want to talk about is, well, consistency. Now, what do I mean by consistency? All these shows that we've reviewed this week have moved up in quality and in the consistency of that quality. It's just been great all around and just enjoyable. Like, if it's for my daughter, it's very wholesome. And the wholesomeness just derives from the character interactions and how it's one man and his adopted daughter actually just bonding, and it's great. And the payoffs for everything just continue on, even though nothing too exciting happens all that much. And it's just the character interactions that really pull through. With Danmachi, this season has been great. It's shown the characters really striving to further a goal. And Haruhime will hopefully get a change in ideals, because she wants to sacrifice herself in order to better the familia that she is a part of, and she feels dirty because she's a prostitute, that she doesn't deserve to be saved. And Bell is going to prove that mentality wrong by just doing what he can to save her from, well, essentially dying. All these shows just remain consistent, and consistency can be a real bitch to deal with when it comes to having a show has a few episodes animated ahead of time. And it's difficult in animation. It's actually difficult in a lot of places when it comes to long-running shows. Anime has it easy to an extent. Consistency, like in a 24-episode core. Well, one thing about Darling in the Franxx that people like to criticize it for, and I could see the criticism, but that doesn't hinder the entertainment value of it, is how drastic it kind of changed a bit, and how it shifted from its initial tone to the tone we actually got it from. Like we actually led towards the ending, I should say. And the ride itself was very fun and enjoyable to watch every week. Now, if I were to watch it, like binge watching it, I can see some of the internal flaws in it, and that's okay. As long as some of the characters remain consistent and things progress in a sense that actually makes sense, that's fine. But some shows just like to take those vertical leaps and jump the shark. It actually takes away from the enjoyment. Sometimes it becomes so bad, it just becomes entertaining in its own right. I fucking hate Camphor. It's a stupid show, but its leaps in logic at times just are very funny and entertainable. Now, Camphor, it has scenes where our antagonist, a female antagonist, hits on the female form of our male lead. And that's great, if you know that I love Yuri shit. But that's the thing. Sometimes characterization is inconsistent. And that's one thing that just pisses me off about Camphor. Doesn't also help that the protagonist is a lame chode that doesn't know his dick from his hand. Just utterly lame. An utterly lame character in a show filled with female characters that are actually interesting, fun, enjoyable. And I could say the same thing about the anime adaptation of Infinite Stratos, but that show is actually consistent, even with Ichika being a moron. And Dumbbell has the steady progression of characterization and consistency. Consistency in the story, or lack thereof, or consistency in the characters. And that's what I like. Sure, the protagonists of Camphor and Ichika are dumb chodes, but they're consistently dumb chodes, and it makes me hate them. But that's okay. And with that being said, I hopefully got my point across that consistency can be a good thing when it's done right, and a bad thing if done wrong. I mean, Camphor's story progression of a battle royale was actually kind of fun and enjoyable, and the stuffed killed animal things are fine. And hell, even shows that we've dropped in the past were just so dull that their consistency, if I were to continue them, would have just been the same dullness without any breath of life. You can stay consistent and yet not be dull. That's kind of the hope that I'm going for here. Anyway, guys, this has been Serpentine451 with another review with another Weeb Warriors episode. Hopefully you can join us next week with Jay and Jordan. Hopefully they can catch up in time or not. Don't have any other obligations. See you then.